Maryland. The Terps looking to get the offense going against a team that has as much offense as any in the Big Ten. 24th ranked Ohio State. You are watching the Big Ten on ESPN. Good afternoon from College Park and the Xfinity Center. Kevin Brown, John Crispin, Testudo's right behind us too. He's hoping his Terps can score. We know Ohio State can score. The #1 adjusted offensive efficiency in the country, even though they lost 7 of their top 8 scorers.
Well, look, it comes down to having players who can make plays, and you do that from your freshman. Bryce Sensabaugh, the guy. Very similar to Malachi Branham last season. He's taken a little time, but he's emerged as a star in Columbus, and frankly, a star in college basketball. Plays his own game, plays it at his own pace, and it fits well with what Chris Holtmann wants to do. I think he's got a little Donovan Mitchell in him, too. That mid-range game is where he does most of his work, and it breaks down the principles of defense, so really defending 3 in the paint.
A lot of freshmen will play and contribute for Ohio State, which gets 45% of its points from first-year players. Bruce Thornton, the point guard, 10 a game. And a third freshman will start today, Felix Okpara, because Zed Key is out after suffering a sprained shoulder crashing into Zach Edey on Thursday. We'll have to redo the jump. Thrown up by Paul Sells, Doug Sermons, Rob Kudeman. It's Rob who has the honor of the jump ball, and with no Zed Key, it's a little bit awkward for Ohio State, but they win it anyway.
It totally blew your opening call for the tip.
Got to be able to improvise. Ohio State will try to do that without Key. Okpara played a big role in a game they led in the final minute but couldn't close out, losing by 2 to #1 Purdue on Thursday. We got a big game from that man, Justice Suing. His first shot is missed, rebounded by Julian Reese, and here's the lineup for the Terps. Don Carey is back in it after hitting 4 threes in the loss to Rutgers midweek. Young, Hart, Scott, and Reese all double-figure scorers. And Maryland's first shot is short from Julian Reese. Mentioned the 3 freshmen for Ohio State. Thornton runs the point and has played very well. Sensabaugh, Okpara, and then the 2 older players, McNeil, a grad transfer from West Virginia. Suing, a 6th-year player who started at Cal. And the first 2 shots missed by Ohio State. That was Thornton. Here is Jameer Young, grad transfer from Charlotte for a Maryland team that is just 2-5 in its last 7 after an 8-0 start.
You had to wonder if that was coming at all. Great pass on the back door cut by Julian Reese. I wonder if that was coming at all. Given how strong the start was, in a way it kind of reminded me of Chris Holtmann's first year at Ohio State. Kevin Willard comes in, low expectations, not sure what to expect, and they've outperformed those expectations, but hard to sustain, especially in this conference.
The schedule has certainly gone up. Some tough non-conference games, Tennessee, UCLA. Here's Sensabaugh. That's a tough-looking shot at Ohio State with 3 bad misses to begin against a very strong Maryland defense. And that's a foul up high against the freshman Okpara. So no Zed Key, their 3rd leading scorer at 12.5 per game, leading rebounder at nearly 8 per game. They really hung in there without him against the giant that is Zach Edey and Purdue. And the injury is a shoulder sprain. They're hoping will not keep him out too much longer.
I don't think the game plan changes much. You still have to dig down. You still have to provide help in the post. Okpara just did a great job of holding his own, and he did it by fighting, physically fighting in the game.
Into Reese, and he starts 0 for 2.
That is the next part of his game. He impacts the game with his presence on the floor, his enthusiasm, his passion, his physicality. If he can make an 8 to 10 foot shot consistently, look out.
Sean McNeil with a 3. The first bucket for Ohio State comes from their terrific 3-point marksman.
And I would argue it'd be a lot harder for these young freshmen to be as impactful as they've been without a spacer in Sean McNeil. Whether he's making shots or not, he's going to garner attention around the perimeter, space the floor, and give your young guys room to work.
Hit what looked like it might be the game winner in the final minute against Purdue before the Boilers come back, and he has a rebound here.
It's too soon, Kevin.
Too soon for who?
For Ohio State.
Well, it's reality. There's a long season left. Dante Scott with a foul on the drive by Suing. Probably too soon for Chris Holtmann. It was a tough loss to take for the Buckeyes, but he admits this team is a little bit ahead of schedule. Lost E.J. Liddell, lost Jamari Wheeler, Kyle Young, Malachi Branham, and it's no longer about who they lost. It's about who he brought in as Chris Holtmann looks for an 8th consecutive NCAA tournament.
They also have, typically, Chris Holtmann programs have an early season polish. And the question is, do they plateau at too early in the season? And I don't think this is a team that's reached its ceiling, but they still have that polish that we've seen from Chris Holtman teams early in the season.
Eugene Brown off the bench with a miss as Ohio State goes a little bit smaller here with Opara out of the game. Brown at 6'7", who has to play the 5 right now. Here's Young with a 3. That's good. Jameer Young, Maryland's leading scorer, with a triple.
And I like what Maryland's doing offensively. It also made shots, allow them to set this pressure up. And the pressure's just disruptive. It keeps you from being able to play a full 30-second clock. And what I mean is it doesn't allow you to take shots early. It leads to a reset. You throw ahead and likely have to reset the offense here with 17 seconds left.
Sensabaugh puts up a 3, or do that indeed. He is a 45% shooter now, 28 for 61 from deep in his true freshman season.
That's correctable for Maryland, though. They did everything right until they didn't close on that shot. You close on that shot, force a reset, 15 seconds left in the clock. You did your job as a defense.
Carey bobbles the return from Reese and still gets off a three-pointer. Well, Maryland got to 4 at Rutgers in its last game and then went about 8 minutes without a basket. So this is an awfully welcome sight for a team that has struggled mightily to score in first halves. Here's Sensabaugh again, top scoring freshman of the Big Ten, well marked by the smaller Young. McNeil has Reese on the switch, shot fake, leans in, and rattles it home for 3. The second for Sean McNeil.
Well, that's tough, but if they can get that switch earlier in the shot clock, you have an advantage there that you can attack.
Good attack here by Reese, left it short, fighting for his own rebound, and McNeil has another. 6 points, couple of rebounds, and an assist for Sean McNeil, who's playing on a little bit of a sore ankle. Back down by Sewing. That is so pretty for Justice Sewing.
Well, what's pretty about that is you could throw it to him in transition. He just backs down his defender because he's got the advantage. And that's the thing about college basketball. The more you attack with your advantage, the easier it's going to be to get high percentage shots. At times we get set with running an offense, yet you play without playing through your advantage.
Dante Scott rattles it in. Good offense to start. Both teams 4 for 8.
I'll say, please God, let's sustain this because this is fun basketball.
Buckeyes have hit their last 3. Sewing will get to the line. Draws a foul against Scott. That's 2 early fouls on Dante Scott.
Look, it's really good when we can show multiple baskets going to the first break. It's been good offense. Yeah, how about it? Good flow, good rhythm, and teams making shots. I'll take that any day of the week. Play to your advantage, Justice Sewing. Great to see him back playing college basketball. Good start for Maryland, and that's ultimately something they need to be able to sustain throughout the course of 40 minutes.
Yeah, Maryland started 0 for 10 from 3 on Thursday at Rutgers. Last 2 first halves for Kevin Willard's team, 17 points in the first half at Rutgers, 13 at Michigan in a game they lost 81-46. He says, I'm not worried about our offense. We'll get it going. They certainly had it going at the 8-0 start. The schedule's gotten tougher. The looks have been tougher for Maryland. All in all, if you were to tell Kevin Willard you'd have a 10-5 start given the schedule, he probably would have taken it. It's just not the way that you might have imagined it would go.
No, I think when you start hot, you want to be able to sustain that, and it's hard because it takes a physical, yes, but also spiritual and emotional toll on your team. When you get into conference play and it just doesn't come as easy, you have to adjust up. You have to level up to the game here in conference play. It is different. The physicality is different. The way the game is played is different, and you do have to adjust to it.
Long-time head coach at Seton Hall.
You don't have to adhere to it, but you have to adjust to it. That's a longer conversation.
You got to improvise a little bit.
You just adjust, adapt to it without changing who you are.
Dante Scott out of the game. Picked up his second foul as we went to break. Patrick Emilio and Ian Martinez are in to replace Carey and Scott. And here's Reese, has a big size advantage on Brown, and he got to his left hand.
Where Reese can be better is where he gets that catch. If he gets that catch on the block, it's lights out. But it was just a great play to finish that. A little extra Euro step at the end to finish on the opposite side of the rim with no help.
Maryland 4 for its last 5 from the field. Ohio State playing without Zed Key today. They are going to be a little bit more limited in the post.
I like this switching things up defensively, going to the zone.
Sensabaugh Good find, McNeil. Another shot fake for him. Extra pass Sewing. Good coverage by Maryland, but it swings to Sensabaugh, who misses. And the rebound tracked down by Young in front of a fired-up Terps bench.
Yeah, great defensive possession.
Reese once more, backing down Brett. Love it. Got to the left again.
Love it. When he plays with confidence, when he seeks out shot opportunities, when he knows he has the advantage, it's a completely different approach. And Kevin Willard may have just gotten a tee.
He sure did. Doug Sermons was standing right next to Kevin Willard. Called for a technical foul after the made basket by his center, Reese.
Great defensive possessions. Two great plays by Julian Reese, and that's a tough technical to get. Somewhere in there, he's like, crap, not bad. You know, there are times when you're okay getting a tee. Somewhere in there, that little voice is saying, okay, I got to let him have it. That's not one you want. Not with a good rhythm and flow that we've got to start this game for Maryland in particular. Ohio State's had answers, but I feel like Maryland has played better to start.
And Sean McNeil hits both of the technical free throws. He has 8. Kevin Willard is still asking Doug Sermons something from across the court. I'm not sure what he was upset about.
I thought Doug Sermons just made a coaching box reference, maybe. He got too far up the line.
There'll be a first time for that.
I see dudes out on the court half the time. I don't know what we're talking about.
McNeil off the screen over Martinez. Hakeem Hart will bring it up for Maryland.
Defense has forced a lot of jumpers to start for Maryland. I think it's something you have to feel good about so long as you're able to rebound, and they have.
Para back in the game to front Reese. Here's Martinez. Tough shot goes for Ian Martinez. Maryland 6 for its last 7. And a little ticky-tack foul in the backcourt. Jahari Long gets dinged for it.
It's ticky-tack, but it's a foul. You have 2 hands on the ball handler. You're going to get called for that, especially if you do it in open space. If you do that, when there's a lot of congestion, multiple bodies, they're not calling physicality, but in open space, open court with a press, you've got to get your hands off.
Long to transfer from Seton Hall off the bench, giving Young a breather. He doesn't get many breathers, Jimmer Young. Sewing. A pass a little too contested. Hart comes away with it. Hakeem Hart, the versatile forward for Maryland, gets the continuation and a chance for 3.
Hakeem Hart may be the linchpin of this team's success. He's that matchup where he's often at times going to be covered by a bigger player, someone he can put the ball on the floor and create. This is just physicality. This is attacking the basket, putting your shoulder down, knowing that the defense is not set, and getting all the way to the rim. If he can contribute consistently at a high level, it doesn't mean he has to go for 25 and 10 every single night. If you can just consistently contribute, it's another piece that you can build upon.
Maryland has already scored more points in the first half than it did in either of its last 2 games. After about 7.5 minutes, and Tanner Holden, who committed the foul, just barely gets it to Thornton. Thornton got it across the timeline just in time. Managed to stay in bounds.
Again, Ohio State's not getting into anything action-wise until really here, 15 seconds on the shot clock.
Isaac Ice lightly in the game right now to run the point for Ohio State. Floating it for Para with a finish.
I don't think that was there. I guess it was there for only one, and it was on Para.
Maryland 8 for 12 to start. Terps have hit 7 of their last 8 from the field. Martinez into McNeil and a foul called. That will take us to the under 12 with Maryland, which was desperately seeking scoring, off to a great start at home.
We've had good back and forth, and then you bring Ice Likely into the game, another physical guard who's able to make reads. Again, I didn't think it was there, but it was only there for Para. What a pass and finish. What a good game.
ESPN, part of our Sunday doubleheader. Houston number 2 for the moment with Purdue's loss earlier in the week. The Cougars could get back to number 1. They got to beat Cincinnati first. Houston dominant once again. They trailed SMU on Thursday 2-0 and then scored the next 28. Cougs and Bearcats tonight.
Nice
Sean
setup.
McNeil, by the way, just got his right ankle stepped on here by Ian Martinez, the same right ankle that he rolled against Purdue on Thursday.
It's like having a cut on your finger. You don't realize how much you use that finger until you have a cut on it. Ankle's kind of the same thing.
It's a foul on the drive by Patrick Emilion. So no Zed Key today for Ohio State. Chris Holtmann said before the game Sean was going to give it a go, but was still feeling the effects of that ankle. Foul is against Felix Opara, his second. So there are some depth issues early right now for Ohio State. And Opara is going to, it appears, check out of this game.
Well, even though they're down 4, to me it's not just depth issues, it's rhythm issues. They haven't been able to create a consistent rhythm with getting good looks. They've made some tough shots and made some good plays. But I would say Maryland has dominated the rhythm of this game. They've been comfortable, they've been moving it, and even without Dante Scott, who's back on the floor now, without him on the floor, they got smaller and they got faster.
1 for 2 for Emilion. Terps have shot it very well, and the pressure almost got to Ohio State. Just barely beat a 10-second violation. On the drive, a miss by the freshman Robbie Gale Jr., and Maryland will push it with Long. Here's Scott back in the game. He'll take it after all. And Barry triple. Terps are 3 for 3 from 3.
I'd say the biggest issue right now for Ohio State is they haven't been able to punish this pressure. They haven't been able to attack the pressure with an advantage. The guards up front have done such a good job of containing the basketball that nothing being thrown ahead doesn't put your backline guys in a bad situation. Ohio State's got to find a way to attack it early.
They struggled with pressure late in those losses to Carolina and, of course, to Purdue in a late possession. Maryland has applied it consistently from the start.
That's a different kind of pressure. Late game pressure is different. It applies everything else, right? You know, oh, jeez. Tough shot, Bakey, but it's more of that mental pressure that you're talking about in a late game situation. This is different in the sense that you're trying to get into it, find rhythm, move the basketball, create scoring opportunities, and you're not getting into anything in terms of action until 15, 20 seconds left on the clock.
Sewing hit that with 1 on the shot clock. There's a reach-in foul against Gale. Sensabaugh will return for Ohio State. Just 3 points so far.
I think if I'm Ohio State, I've got to put my playmakers either in the middle or on the wings extended against this pressure. So you can throw ahead and let them attack off the bounce. That defense scrambling out of that double team up top, they're going to chase from behind. You can push it with a guard if he's on the wing or in that kind of middle of the floor area.
Thornton likely in the game at the same time, so a couple of point guards right now for Chris Holtmann. Smaller lineup necessitated by the injury to Key. The fouls against Opara. Scott able to shuffle out of it to Young. 5 to shoot. The transfer from Charlotte back into Reese. Has the size advantage again, and Reese leaves it short. The rebound to the defender Brown.
He doesn't maintain his size advantage against a smaller player, and that's a challenge. He's got to maintain it by winning position first.
Sensabaugh, wow. Good strong drive for Bryce Sensabaugh.
What do you do against that? He's just bigger and stronger. That's what I said, a little Donovan Mitchell to his game. Maybe not as explosive. So settle down. I'm not saying he is Donovan Mitchell.
Brown with the deflection and the steal. Here comes Brown. Good decision to get rid of it. Got a 2 Sensabaugh with that one short. Ohio State scrambles back in transition. And they're able to mark Scott. Maryland 2-5 in the last 7 after an 8-0 start. Much better offensive beginning tonight, and Reese went rolling right into Thornton. It's a blocking foul against Bruce Thornton, Ohio State's 6th.
There are players out there that you just can't simulate, and I think Bryce Sensabaugh is one of those guys, right? You know, the game today is about defending the three-point line in the paint. But how do you defend a guy that can stop on a dime and pull up with a little fadeaway from mid-range? When you watch tape on this guy, you realize he thrives in the mid-range. He's comfortable there, and that breaks down your modern-day defensive principles, which is defend the 3 in the paint.
Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida last year, 6'6", 235. Negate that shot. That would be a moving screen against Julian Reese before the carry 3, and the first foul against Reese.
Get a time where they call so many bigs for illegal screens, guards have to be better screeners. I just feel if more guards are involved in the screening, it's easier. Let's see it. Let's see it. Yeah, he gives him a little left shoulder. It's not much. It's weak, but that's the way we're calling things. When I say it's weak, it's not egregious, but it's not a bad call either.
Quick pass, sets the ball. Fifth Thornton for a three to tie the game, and Ohio State now on a little bit of a run of its own.
Just look at the physicality of the guards for Ohio State with Thornton, Sensabaugh, and Ice Likely. I mean, three beasts on the floor.
Does not look like a team with a bunch of freshmen. The freshmen don't look like freshmen. It's knocked away by Brown, who recovers back to front Reese. Here's a Ken Hart with 9 to shoot. Hart. Offensive foul is drawn brilliantly by Likely. You were saying about physicality?
Just hold their ground. It's just great defense to get your hands wide to avoid picking up the foul again. In an ISO situation, you've got a lot of room to cover, and you're asking Ice Likely to defend a lot of space. Good physicality when you can't put your hands on a ball handle. Let's see if he does it well. That's on the chest.
Grad transfer from Oklahoma State, Likely. He's got to back his way into the post right now. Uses physicality on this end. Spinning over a million, too high off the window. Young, Maryland's leading scorer with an early 5. That one's long. Reese is there. Putback, no. Third chance and a foul on the way up as Young grabbed it. The first offensive rebounds of the game for either team in an entertaining first half. There typically is here at the Xfinity Center, the great Gary Williams, head coach of the Maryland Terrapins. But before that, after stints at American and BC, he was a Maryland ball player, but then his third head coaching job, college, Ohio State. Took the Buckeyes to the tournament in the late 80s before taking over at Maryland, where he would, of course, lead the Terps to the national championship. Now an administrative athletic director in the athletic department here.
I don't know if I got to see him before the game, and you know, he talked about me being a shooter in South Jersey, and I said, well, yeah, the people forget that I ever missed. And he says, yeah, quite frankly, every time I come back here, I realize I never lost a game. And that's how it feels. Over time, your whole body of work is valued a little bit more. In that moment, there were probably times where people were saying, oh, we need a new coach. I think longevity is important because time is influence. And we often don't give great coaches enough time to influence. Whereas Gary Williams got the time here to be able to influence not only his players, but influence the program and the community around the program. That stuff matters. Time is influence.
There were sanctions, too, when he started at Maryland from the Bob Wade era. Maryland struggled for a few years when he got there. He was given the time to build the program back up. And that national championship banner, the only one in Maryland men's basketball history, hangs because of the work of Gary Williams and his staff. And so many great local players rebuilding this program.
They were fun. They were fun to watch. They played inspiring basketball. And they beat Duke a lot.
Sure did. Hoping to get back to that under Kevin Willard as they get a steal right here from Don Carey. Couldn't find a reason foul from behind on Eugene Brown III. Stopped Reese from dunking. He'll shoot a couple of free throws.
Julian Reese is 1 or 2 steps away from really figuring it out. Right? And a lot of it's just simple thing like instincts and anticipation. If you anticipate that roll, you get your feet almost set before you get the catch. You don't catch and then try to go into the shot. I just think he's really close to breaking through and being a major impact player in the Big Ten.
So the foul, I should correct myself, I thought it was on Brown. It's actually called on Thornton. I thought Brown hit him there. It will be Thornton's third foul. Thornton is staying in right there. Thought it was Brown that got him from behind. I don't know if Chris Holtman would keep Thornton in with 3 fouls.
I think I just heard in the arena that there was a correction that it was on Brown.
Okay. So Brown gets his first. Thornton stays with 2, and Reese, 51% free throw shooter, looks awfully good.
These headphones we're wearing are not exactly noise canceling in any way.
I'm glad they're not.
But I'm just saying, like, I thought I heard that, and I guess that turned out to be true.
Sometimes what you think is indeed correct.
Well, it depends what voice I'm listening to.
Just keep it to these voices for at least another hour and a half, would you? McNeil, deep three. Knew he missed it. Offensive rebound, sensible. Came out of nowhere. First of the game for Ohio State. And he finds an open Thornton. Another missed three. High-flying rebound to Ian Martinez off the Terrapin bench. Martinez into Reese. Good anticipation by Thornton. Into the hands of Brown. Pushing tempo for Likely. Spinning in the lane. No on the high floater. Likely's had a couple of nice moves that have led to finishes that have not been what he's wanted. There's Jahari long into Reese with the early position. And then a foul going against Reese on the push-off. That's 2 fouls on Julian Reese. Tomorrow night it is the national championship game in Los Angeles, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. TCU, one of the great surprise entrants ever into the title game against defending champion Georgia. Pre-game coverage all day, and the game covered as part of our megacast on ESPN, ESPN2, U, News, Deportes, Plus, radio, digital.
The fact that I'm not working that event is starting to make me feel like I don't have a job.
Yeah, where's the Brown Crispin alternate broadcast that nobody asked for? That'll just be you and I on the phone for 3 hours. There's a three short by Young. Rebound to Thornton. So 2 fouls on Reese. He's out of the game. Scott is back in with 2 for Maryland. Buckeyes got a little bit cold. They missed their last 4, make it 5. That's a break by Sensible.
Well, they're not getting good ones, and I think that's been the disruption of the defense. It's been the extended defense, but also in the half court. Maryland's been really good communicating, getting back into the play.
Scott rattles off with 3. Terps have not hit from the field in over 5 minutes. They've missed their last 6. Game has been thrown into the meat grinder after a high-flying start. Brown with space. A little clang at the end of that from Eugene Brown, playing just his 4th game of the season after missing the first 11 due to a concussion.
It was a good clang, though. It was through the net and hit the back of the rim clang. Now, they had that right off the slip. That was a slip. 2 went with the basketball, but McNeil actually came to Brown and made it tough to get that shot off. They missed the first opportunity they got.
Scott fades away on Suing. And here is Justice Suing. Quiet first half for him, and he travels.
Those are things that I would look to go back to. If you're struggling to get some consistency, that slip screen, 2 guys went with the basketball. They're switching a lot, Maryland is, as is Ohio State. But if you're going to switch, the slip screen often brings 2 to the basketball, and if they don't communicate properly, 2 stay with the basketball. Brown was open right away. The guys far from the basketball need to be reading that as well. If you're far from the basketball, 3 passes away, 2, 3 passes away, read the play. If 2 go with the ball, stay away.
Okpara back in the game with 2 fouls for Ohio State. Meanwhile, he replaces Thornton. So the Buckeyes get bigger on the floor. Martinez back in for carry for Maryland. Young cut off by Tanner Holden, the grad transfer from Wright State. Good shot fake, Martinez. Back to Young, who got hacked. Who's this foul going to be on? It is number 3 on Okpara.
That's a challenge, but I do think Ohio State did pretty well with the smaller lineup. I mean, you're playing against a smaller team in Maryland, so you should be able to match up. Just allows you to switch even more. I think switching works in the college game because we don't attack the matchup advantage that we create with the switching defenses, right? Switching defense, you're going to get a matchup you like, but if you're not spaced, you can't really punish it. And sometimes the matchup advantage is you're on someone that doesn't cover a cutting player well. So if you're on someone that maybe jumps too far to the basketball or doesn't jump enough, the cuts will be there.
2 free throws missed by Young. He got it back. He got fouled again. That's one way to clean up your own mess. Second foul on Eugene Brown as Ohio State finds itself in some deep first half foul trouble.
Again, Ohio State playing without Zed Key, and that's key. Opara is 3 fouls. He's on the bench. But that wasn't an offensive rebound because there's no size on the floor. That was just no block out, no toughness to go get the ball.
Young given it a second chance. 78% free throw shooter, hits the first. There is Zed Key.
Coaching him up.
The only returning starter for this Ohio State team. Out with a shoulder sprain. And if anybody watching this game, if any of us collided with Zach Edey, we'd be out with a shoulder sprain too.
Ooh, I'd be out.
A shoulder sprain might be the best case scenario for crashing into Zach Edey of Purdue. Free throws good by Young after the offensive rebound after his first 2 misses. Young with a game high 8 for Maryland. Brown just hit from here. Hand off to Sewing with 5 to shoot. Sewing driving on Hart. Goes to the right hand. Tips it back to himself. And a fresh 20 for Ohio State. Maryland has been so good in the half court in this game. Good look there though. Brown missed it from the elbow. Rebound to Akeem Hart. Terps looking to run with Long. Back to Hart in the corner. No. Young another offensive rebound. He's all over the glass. He got it back. He scores again. Timeout Ohio State. Smallest man on the floor making the biggest impact.
There's nothing quite as magical as staying at a Disney Resort hotel. So imagine complimentary rides to and from the park, even extra time with your family.
On one of the most unheralded teams in college basketball, plus the standouts from college basketball on Saturday. Fonz, where do the Buckeyes miss Zed Key right now?
Interior rebounding, and this is a Maryland team that's doing a great job of driving the basketball, getting to the foul line, Seth. Continue to get to the offensive guys and drive it if you're Maryland.
Hey, Chris Holtman's going to tell us, hey, forget about Zed Key, all right? We're good enough and big enough to put a body on someone, that ball gets shot. You can't let a guard get in the lane. And by the way, you talk about simulcast. Are you kidding me, Chris? I mean, that's a solo cast. You don't need Brown to do that.
Oh, man, it's always trouble when you have guys in there that know me well enough.
I didn't know Seth was on my payroll. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, well, he's had to work with me from time to time. Yeah,
it would be great for me because I get paid to just say, John, what do you think of this game? Jameer Young, what do you think of him right now, John?
Well, that's the point that they're making in studio. It's like, yes, Zed Key. I think the issue is he's a position rebounder. He plays positions defensively, so he's always in rebounding position. He's getting the body, and he's going and getting the basketball because he's got great rebounding instincts. But the guards have to do the job, too. Jameer Young with 4 offensive rebounds is a problem, and that's an effort problem. Look, who's stopping him? Who's keeping him from just cutting to the glass? And I think guards can be the most dangerous offensive rebounders because they typically have the longest way to go, which means a hard block out. And guards perimeter defensively are often rotating with the play. So there's a line to the basket. You've got to go find them and keep them off the glass.
Rebounds are +8 for Maryland as a team right now. Just as Sewing hits the 1-and-1.
I always wondered, like, again, I haven't coached and I look at weird things that probably take too big a risk, but I was wondering if it'd be better just to send all your guards to the offensive glass and your bigs back. So we never get beat at the rim. I don't know. I'm sure the metrics out there could tell me otherwise.
I do want to say I'm conflating my lefties. Tanner Holden hits the free throws for Ohio State.
You're what?
Well, I mixed up my left hand. Just holding Sewing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening to anything you said.
Yeah, see? Solo cast. Crispin cast on ESPN- tomorrow night.
I was looking at something else.
Here's Young, who's got 11 into McNeil. Back out to Carey. Good close by Likely on Maryland's three-point shooter. Terps are 3 for 6 from 3. 10 of 22 for the field. And a slip there by Long. No travel, but Sewing's on the deck to pick it up for Ohio State.
This is where Ohio State has to start making adjustments offensively. And, you know, winning the play off the bounce is one thing. That's a tough one, but if you get it to go, great.
An immediate timeout taken by Kevin Willard after Sensabaugh rattles in a 3. 8 points for the freshman leads us to a 30-second timeout.
Ohio State, the basketball game. Ultimately, Ohio State needs to get into action that they feel comfortable with. Bringing 2 to the basketball, they haven't been able to do it. They haven't been able to win off the bounce. They're taking tough shots to stay in this basketball game. So far, I think Maryland's dictated the way this game's been played.
Likely dictates a possession right there. Might have traveled with it, got away with it, and then Sensabaugh has his miss cleaned up by Sewing after a really good straight-up block by Dante Scott.
Well, trying to avoid that third foul, too. That's a tough position to be in if you're Dante Scott.
It's a 7-0 run in 58 seconds, and in the blink of an eye, Ohio State, which looked like it was being controlled, has the lead. The foul before the play, it'll be a push on Sean McNeil, his first.
So allowing the run has made more plays at the rim. I love that about the college game. If we can get to this more and more, that's why I want to get rid of the restricted arc or move it out about, I don't know, 10 feet. More plays at the rim. Guys are learning how to go straight up and contest the ball. More contested shots at the rim, better basketball. Used to be if you jump, it's a foul. Just the way it was.
First free throw good for Young. Hart will check out of the game for Martinez.
I credit Purdue for those changes because they always have giants. And guys like Isaac Haas always got in trouble because he'd go straight up, but they would come into him and he'd get the fouls. What are you going to do about that?
Hart was checking out, by the way. He stays on. Scott runs off the floor with those 2 fouls.
Well, after seeing the transition play, you're like, whoa, let's not risk that.
Ohio State already with a player with 3 fouls, Felix Okpara, in just 5 minutes. A lot of players with 2 fouls in a game. We've seen 5 ties, 7 lead changes, and a fun back and forth first half here at College Park. Maryland off a loss to Rutgers by 14 Thursday. Ohio State off a 2-point loss to Purdue. This is a reach-in foul coming. Doug Servants has it. Sewing fouled. It'll be a 1-and-1 on the first by Jameer Young.
I know this is a tie basketball game, but I still make the point. I feel like Maryland's controlled most of this game, at least how it's been played. Ohio State has kept things alive by some tough shot making and some playmaking. They're going to have to find it at some point, something they can consistently get to give them opportunities.
There's a 1-and-1 for Sewing, who's got 8. Wednesday night, college basketball doubleheader on ESPN2. 2 really good games.
Holy smoke.
SEC first, Alabama, which mauled Kentucky yesterday, goes to Arkansas, and then Texas hosting a TCU team coming off a great win over Baylor. 4 big-time teams starting at 7 Eastern on ESPN2.
Teams that can score, too. I know Texas starting to slow things down a little bit. You've seen games in the 50s, but those are teams that have firepower, which makes them even more dangerous in the NCAA tournament.
TCU only 1 loss on the year. That's knocked out of bounds by Lakely. He's been really strong on the ball defensively.
Yeah, this is one of those guys you're going to want to tune in for. Shot making, pure, smooth jumper. Kind of looks like Ray Allen with, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 inches on him. He's just ridiculous. His feel for the game, his fluidity is just crazy. It's next level already.
Scott steps in. Knew he missed it. He was there. Oh, man, a foul here against Ohio State. It's going to be on Justice Sewing. Doug Sermon sprinted right in there to get the foul against Sewing on the loose ball. 2 more free throws for Maryland, which is attempted 13 and a half.
People are so critical of Big Ten officials. And by people, I mean people that use their thumbs on Twitter. They're so critical of Big Ten officials, but you have to realize how hard it is to officiate these games with the physicality that we see night in, night out. And it's really about officiating the advantage, right? You want to call fouls that are fouls that give one team an advantage over the other. And you have to be able to kind of discern the plays that don't really give anyone an advantage and let it go, because you want to create some sort of flow on the floor.
You said people that use their thumbs on Twitter. Is that like specific compared to people who use their pointer fingers?
Maybe some people dictate, you know, but I'm just saying, like,
voice to texters.
I just know people are critical of Big Ten officials, yet it ain't an easy job.
Sewing shoves it right in. Emilian went straight up.
Yep.
No call was the appropriate no call there, but a good finish for Sewing, who suddenly has 11. Hart on the drive. That's tipped out by Emilian. Up for grabs. It was almost Young again. It's Likely trying to shove it free. It's a rugby scrum, and a jump ball will stay with Maryland. And now we got a technical foul called. It's a technical foul against one of the Maryland players. It looks like Ian Martinez.
They're going to review it.
Doug Sermons will call for a review. Doug Sermons had a technical foul on Kevin Willard earlier in the game, and the officials will go to the monitor after it appears a technical foul was called on Ian Martinez. Did we clarify? I don't think we did. The earlier technical foul, by the way. Because we were speculating whether or not Kevin Willard was out of the box. Well, it wasn't your mess. We didn't know. Doug Sermons said it was a Class A technical foul because Willard was out of the box, and he was assessed a technical foul for an unsporting comment not getting back in the box after he was asked.
So Martinez is just diving on dudes late. He gets a little knee shove. Nothing egregious. I don't know. He did this. No, he didn't. He did this. Let's see.
Zero had his knee in his rib cage, so he's getting one. 23 gets one. They all said we get the point of interruption, which is a jump ball. Perfect. Anything else?
No, you got it.
Okay. You can relay the message from Doug Sermons. It's a very thorough message. We appreciate that from Doug.
That requires me to listen. No, I did listen. They're going to double it up. So double technical. One player had the knee and the other player's back, and the other guy comes in and tries to clean it up. And there you go. Martinez gets the knee shove, and he says something and pushes back. So we're just going to double it up, and there you go.
Holden of Ohio State, who came in from behind. So that's a technical on Holden. That will be his second foul. And then Martinez for the technical will garner his second foul. Jump ball possession of Maryland.
The funniest thing about it is, like, what happened to get the technical is nowhere near as physical and tough as what happened in the play itself. Curly Neal
slipped around Suick. Scott somehow got it back.
Apologize for that stream of consciousness.
I like that you just topped it off with Curly Neal, though.
Well, he slid to the ground. He hit his knee on the ground. He spun around. Look, Globetrotters still exist. They're just different than they used to be.
Sensabaugh's fouled by Emilian. Amazingly, it's only his first.
Do you remember the Harlem Globetrotters?
Of course, I
growing up?
remember the Globetrotters. I went to see the Globetrotters. Nassau Coliseum back in the day. Free throws for Sensabaugh, who a little quietly has 9 here in the first half. One of the leading freshman scorers in the country. We just showed you Brandon Miller. Bryce Sensabaugh behind only Miller and Keontae George, third leading freshman scorer in the nation for Ohio State.
There are some high-level freshmen. I felt that about Judah Mintz. We saw him earlier this season. Just a guy who's got a great feel for the game. But when you look at Sensabaugh, it's the feel for the game, but it's also physicality. He can match physicality and toughness with anybody in the country.
He's reshaped his body, lost about 20 pounds, but the muscle he has now is much more defined than it was in high school. Missed 3, trapped down by Emilian, and he throws it off McNeil. Great hustle play by Patrick Emilian to maintain Maryland possession.
And I've got to say, Ohio State's up 5, but Maryland is out-efforting Ohio State at the moment in terms of second chance opportunities, getting offensive rebounds. That's one thing, but it's 50-50 balls. You and I do some Houston in the AAC, and we always say that it's not a 50-50 ball when you're playing Houston. It's more like a 70-30 ball. That feels like what it's been here today for Maryland. They've been able to make extra plays or create extra possessions with that hard playmaking.
Plus 9 rebounds, but they trail by 5. Ohio State 6 for 10 from 3 in this first half. Young flips it to Carey. Likely was all over him. Back to Young, who leads the Terps in scoring. Nowhere to go, leading into Gale. Left it long. And here's Holden for Ohio State with a shot clock off. Holden will look for somebody. Find Likely. It's Sewing with a shot fake. Sewing, step back. No, off the rim, and that's the end of the half. A lot to like offensively for Maryland, but Ohio State, the nation's #1 team in offensive efficiency, leads by 5 at College Park. Chris Holtman's Buckeyes playing short-handed and with heavy foul trouble. Up by 5, looking to get to 3-1 in the Big Ten. Terps and the Buckeyes. Ohio State leads by 5 at the half. Kevin Brown, John Crispin back with you. Maryland played well for much of that half. Ends the half Going just 1 for 16, and the Buckeyes jump back in front.
I still feel like Maryland dictated more of the way this first half was played, and Ohio State needed to make tough shots to keep themselves in this game and give themselves the lead. Tough shot making is great, but I often refer to it as fool's gold makes. This isn't great offense, it's just a great outcome for Ohio State. And this one, look, just not there on the catch, so Sensabaugh's able to get and make a tough three. The 50-50 balls, it felt like they've been more 60-40, 70-30. Maryland getting on the offensive glass with guards. They've been physically attacking the glass. They've physically stepped up to this game. They've responded to Ohio State's physicality with added toughness. They've made big plays. They've made winning plays. I just think Ohio State needs to find it offensively, find some consistency, find some action that gives you an advantage, and then attack with that advantage.
Buckeyes in the half on a 13-3 run. Maryland just 1 field goal the last 11, 16 and a half. It came from Jameer Young, who leads them with 13 with 8 rebounds. For Ohio State, Sewing has 11, Sensabaugh 12, and that's a travel. The 5th turnover against Ohio State.
I like what they did earlier, though. They took Okpara, put him outside in the ball screen situation. He didn't immediately dive. They threw the ball into Sensabaugh, where he does have the advantage because he's just physically bigger and better.
How about Maryland on this end? What can they do better?
They can't rely on tough shot making like Ohio State, but it's more of the selfish, I'll fix this problem. So respond to a challenge by taking tough shots. They've tended to do that in a lot of their losses.
Reese found Young, and Jameer Young squeezes it into the lane. It's a 3rd assist for Julian Reese, and Young with a game-high 15.
And when prepping for Maryland, that's been something that stood out to me. Was it's like, it's almost as if players are like, how can I get this game back? That's going to be an offensive foul.
It's the 3rd on Thornton.
How can I get this game back, as opposed to how can we get back in this game? When you start to figure out how we can get back in this game, you become a much better team. Again, a lot of players on both teams still learning who their teammates are and how they respond to adversity, let alone how do they handle thriving.
It's the 3rd foul on Thornton. Felix Okpara's on the floor with 3 for Ohio State, which is without Zed Key today due to a shoulder sprain. A lot of players with 2 fouls as well in the first half that featured 24 fouls, 3 technicals. Scott with a good left-hand drive. They have been waiting for that level of aggression from him. And Thornton travels. He just turned it over against the Maryland pressure on consecutive possessions.
Well, that's going to bring Ice Likely back into the game, who handled the pressure pretty well, and he handled it by attacking off the bounce. You push ahead off the bounce, you get an angle, get to that sideline, throw ahead. That's how you can break it down. But again, if Ohio State can't attack the pressure, you're never going to get out of it if you're Kevin Willard. And if you can make shots and apply that pressure, great.
3 turnovers in the first minute, 16 and a half committed by the Buckeyes. And Maryland turns it right back over as Carey hits the deck.
That requires no breakdown.
This may be one of these starts to the half where you need to just plug the machine back in. Hit the reset button. We'll try the reboot. The reboot. Here's Likely, who did not score in that first half, but made a major impact on the game. Plus 11 with him on the floor. And another turnover as Sensabaugh lost the handle. Hakeem Hart hosting McNeil. Hart double teamed, and it's going to be a jump ball as Sensabaugh got right back in there. Maryland has the arrow.
Spacing's been an issue for Ohio State as well, and Sean McNeil needs to be the kind of guy that reads his defender as much as he's reading the play. If you could take your defender with you, be a decoy. You're going to give the advantage, or at least maintain the advantage for Sensabaugh with the ball in his hands. Space, take your defender with you. He's just too close to where the basketball is, and 2 guys go with the ball.
Chris Holtman just took Sensabaugh out of the game for Holden, so he's going with about as experienced a lineup as he can have right now. Up start to the half for Ohio State, 4 turnovers. Shot fake carry, in on McNeil. For Maryland, the first 6 points of the half belong to the Terps. Likely's able to beat the pressure to Sewing. Chris Holtman says, let's go, let's get into the action.
I would say you're wrong. They're not able to beat the pressure. They're able to just get the ball up, and it's playing right into the hands of Maryland, who's playing with a set defense once you get the ball into the front court.
Now with 8 to shoot, it's the freshman Okpara. Left it short, grabbed by Reese.
I want to see Reese and Okpara in 2 years. Right? In 2 years, you're going to see the skill development. It's just not there yet.
Hart misses a three. Tip to Suing on the rebound for Ohio State. Brutal start to the half for Ohio State. You can tweak that graphic now. It's 5. Up ahead, Hart. Suing trying to draw the charge, and he got there in time. Hakeem Hart called for an offensive foul, his second foul.
Everybody works on the jump stop, but it's not really apply it. Yeah, that's a charge. Just a little jump stop off the glass, 10-footer. It's not an easy shot, but the way the game's played, guys get into that position, they hold their position, and they just wait for you to run them over. It's a great defensive play, but offensively, you should be able to figure that out.
Sensabaugh's back in for Okpara. Ohio State goes small. 9 turnovers combined in the first 3 minutes or so of that half. Ohio State, the #1 adjusted offensive efficiency in the country, yet to score in the half. And Sensabaugh at just 3 for 9.
That was a good look. You can live with that. You got the ball in there against the zone. Can't live with that if you're Ohio State. Just work it down. Poor communication, and he just crosses up into a rhythm 3.
Terps have missed their last 6 from out there. Nearly 4 minutes without a bucket for Ohio State in the half. McNeil will find Sensabaugh. He missed it. Suing crashes. And Suing takes it. Denied by Reese. Holden got it back. He missed it. Reese tips it to Young. It's grabbed by Maryland Jameer Young. With a runaway and a pass to Hart. Over to Carey. His bag is on fire.
Maryland off to a 7-point lead here. Second half, 7-point lead because they've made plays. They've been physical. They've been tough. They've also gotten the ball moving. They move it in transition, good playmaking, good passing, and when you get open shots, they become high percentage makes. Something that Ohio State has struggled to do. They've struggled to attack that pressure in extended defense in terms of the press. They've struggled to get stops, allowing the press to get set up. But if you don't attack that pressure and punish the extended defense, then they're just going to keep putting it on you. And you're never going to find an offensive rhythm that's going to allow you to win this game.
12-0 start to the half for Maryland, which led most of the first half. Ohio State stormed back late to take the lead, but the Terps fully in control of this game now. The building is alive, the Xfinity Center rocking like the halcyon days of Gary Williams, who's sitting just to our right. It's a Maryland team that really desperately needs a win. I know it's a long season, but 2-5 in the last 7 and just not able to score. They got to 46 points a whole lot quicker than they did 2 games ago in Ann Arbor when they ended the game at 46, losing by 35 to Michigan.
So you're saying Ohio State doesn't really need a win? I mean, it feels like in Big Ten play.
I'm just saying Maryland feels like it does.
The point I'm making is it feels like in Big Ten play, anybody coming off of a loss needs a win.
Sure.
It's just the way it feels.
Every game is big.
It's a must-win.
Into Reese after the Sensabaugh miss, and Reese is fouled by Likely. Reese took a hard fall. Reese is grabbing the right shoulder. We're going to check on Julian Reese when we come back to College Park. You know, a famous man once said, crab cakes at football. That's what Maryland does. Crab cakes, football, and the flag. Marylanders love our state flag. John Crispin. That's a big state flag.
Yeah. I forget.
I'm one of them now. Julian Reese left the UCLA game earlier this year with a shoulder injury, missed 12 days of practice. Watch the reaction here after he was yanked by Ice Likely.
Clearly felt it right away. We're obviously going to keep a close look at him. Excuse me. I don't know. I mean, look, we're not supposed to speculate on injuries anyway, and I wouldn't know what I'd speculate about anyway. Outside of it, looks like he had discomfort in his shoulder.
You know he's out of the game. He's had a nice game tonight. Good start to the second half. And without him, Jameer Young finds his way to the basket. 14-0 run to begin the half for Maryland. This is the Terrapins' largest lead.
Yeah, with this lineup, you can bring the pressure as you've brought it. You could switch more. And it's really up to Ohio State to have action to counter the switching defense. And I look at slip screens. They had an opportunity in the first half where they ended up getting an open three. You can get back to it, force some confusion. Now, obviously in zone now for Maryland, which they've had success with.
Smaller lineup. Sewing's playing a 5 right now for Ohio State. Finds McNeil, who's not scored in a long time since an early 8. Sends the ball over to Thornton. Step in for 2. Likely's there for the uncontested rebound. And finally, Ohio State, after more than 5.5 minutes, has a second half point.
Well, that's the challenge with the defense moving so much in that zone. You're not on a man, so offensive rebounding opportunities will be there if your ball movement's good.
Patrick Emilion in the game for Scott for the Terps. And here is Emilion to the hole. Patrick Emilion puts in his first field goal. He's got 4 off the bench.
Yeah, Emilion's been really good. Just from an energy and effort standpoint, you want to come in and lift the energy of your program. You're not going to be a huge producer, it doesn't matter. But if your energy and effort lifts the program, great, you did your job.
Grad transfer from St. Francis, Brooklyn. Sends the ball, misses it. Those 3-pointers are not going down anymore for Ohio State.
It's almost like we pointed that out or something.
Young. That one doesn't go to neither. Scott got good position for the rebound. He couldn't finish. Young is in. He tips it home. Oh, Jameer Young is everywhere.
He has really been able to get in there, and no one's applying a body on Jameer Young. And it seems, again, as if Maryland's been able to dictate the way this game's been played. They've been in their press a lot because there's been a lot of made baskets.
Largest lead for Maryland. Sensible finally gets a second half basket. Just 4 for 13 on the night for the nation's 3rd leading freshman scorer.
They've been alleviating baskets, but not enough to build on. And that's what I'm talking about. Offensive action that allows you to build upon it. Second, the defense adjusts. You have a counter to that adjustment. They haven't been able to get into good action, so there hasn't been consistency on the offensive end for Ohio State.
Hart spinning on Sensabaugh, ducks underneath, and he deserved that little roll.
He probably could have gotten a foul call, but I like the flow we've got without the call. Which means I am selfish and want the game played through.
Well, you like offense, you like scoring.
Oh, I just like a good flow. I like good rhythm, up and down.
Likely did find Sensabaugh. Back-to-back buckets for Bryce Sensabaugh.
Playing off the ball, if you're hugged up, you've got to be a good cutter. And if you have a passer in the post, which a lot of teams are doing, think of Jalen Pickett at Penn State, very much like Villanova, where they play, they're 5 out and they're 1 in. It's tough to cover. It just breaks down your defensive principles.
The senior Hart's going to take it around Sensabaugh. Hakeem Hart toasting the freshman Sensabaugh. Timeout on the floor. This ties the largest Terrapin lead. For Jameer Young, misses the 3, and then comes all the way in off the Dante Scott miss for the tip-in. Standing at 6'1", the pride of DeMatha Catholic High, Jameer Young with 10 rebounds, 2 shy of a career high, to go with 19 points. Brought amazing energy for Maryland.
But the jacked up thing about it is that Emilion got credit for it. Guards never get credit for offensive rebound step backs.
It's, as you say this, it's just been changed in the stat broadcast. We were looking at our stats, thinking we were crazy. Emilion didn't go for the ball, and Young is appropriately credited
they said
with the basket.
Offensive rebound by Young and assist by Young, which is it's hard to do.
He's played well. There were questions about how his game would translate to the Big Ten after playing at Charlotte. It's translated very well. Look at the second half shooting for Maryland, which ended the first half 2 for 17. Now Ohio State in search of some offense. The freshman Ronnie Gale puts his head down, storms in, and Gale draws a foul. It's Jameer Young with his second.
Ohio State just hasn't had an answer to the defensive pressure, the presence, and the disruption of that extended pressure. Starts with not attacking that pressure, but then in the half court, not getting into action that allows you to attack with an advantage. I'm going to say it again, just got to find the advantage.
Super Tuesday, Big Ten ACC doubleheader. Michigan State with a nice win yesterday over Michigan. They'll visit Wisconsin. We'll see if Tyler Wall's available for that game at 7 Eastern, followed by North Carolina and number 11 Virginia at 9. Both games streaming on the ESPN app and right here on ESPN.
I would not want to play North Carolina. Like, you prep for what you watch, and then who knows what you're going to get.
There's Reese back on the floor, and a shot rejected by Brown, but he got it back. Left the game a few minutes ago with what appeared to be an injured shoulder. Reese looking to set the screen, Suing with a switch on Young. Young fires over him, breaks it. Rebound to Roddy Gale. Ohio State down by 10 with most of the second half to go. Best offensive team in the nation by adjusted offensive efficiency. That's efficiency adjusted to your level of opponent. They're averaging over 80 points per game. Thornton a good look. Missed a three. Rebound number 11 for Young.
Transition defense for Maryland has been very good too. There hasn't been many opportunities to get out in transition, but Maryland has gotten back, gotten established, and communicated early in transition to take any opportunity away and force that reset.
Young driving it into Suing. He draws the contact. Second foul on Suing, and Jameer Young can get to 20 or 21 points at the line.
That's a situation that I think Ohio State needs to get to. Is just kind of an exchanged bit of a slip. Two defenders not communicating whether they're going to switch or not switch, stay with their man, and you're able to get an angle to the basket, and that almost always leads to a foul.
Jameer Young now up to 1,649 career points, 1,650 on that make. 101st game, he has started them all. 1,500 plus points, 500 plus rebounds, 300 plus assists. He's a 20-point per game scorer at Charlotte last year, but this is a homecoming for him. At the fabulous DeMatha High School, played AAU ball in the DMV area. It's the first Terp from DeMatha. This is hard to believe with all their talents. It's Travis Garrison, who finished his career in 2006. Suing, poked away by Hart. Halfway through this second half, which has been dominated by Maryland, and that is a trick goal against Thornton. Turnover number 6.5 for Ohio State. Yeah, DeMatha Catholic, they haven't gotten a Terrapin in a long time, and there have been some awful good ones from one of the great high school programs in the country.
And yes, Markel Fultz is one of them. It's a critical
number one pick.
in the league.
Hunter Dickinson from Michigan, who always takes it personally when he plays Maryland.
Takes it personally when he plays anyone.
That's a good point. Reese, he took that personally. And a technical foul against Reese after the make. It's the third technical against Maryland, fourth of the game. Paul Sells came in from the backside to call it.
I like this type of play from Reese. He just didn't need to say anything. I mean, that's like doing the too small thing. If the dude's too small, why are you celebrating it? Has anyone ever asked that question? So if 6'9" scores on me, you're going to say too small? Well, of course you should do that. You should only do that if you're going up against Hunter Dickinson. That's when it's fun. It's ironic, right? It's like obvious. Yeah, we know. He's 6'4". That's great. He scored over top of him. You should. Am I making sense?
I think so.
Are you listening?
Sorry?
I get it, though. The emotions in this game, they get you, and that's one of the things that makes Julian Reese great. So you have to live with that at times. His passion, his energy, his emotion, you got to live with it. But when he makes good plays, you want him to build off those good plays, not find himself on the bench because of a technical foul.
Got hit with a flagrant foul last game at Rutgers. He is an emotional player at times, and Ohio State gets a quick 4 points. They get it down the floor quickly to Suing and cut the lead to 10.
But where did they get the ball? They got it up the sidelines quickly. As most of the defense is in the backcourt, you have to have somebody on the sideline that can make a play with the ball in his hands. That's just too easy.
That's an intercept. Gale took it away from Young, and the freshman Gale could not finish. Would have been 6 points and an eyelash for Ohio State.
Gale's got a smooth fluidity to his game, and the more he plays, the better he's going to get. He's just going to develop a good feel.
That's poked away by Holden, and Ohio State gets another turnover. Thornton is bear hugged right now by Carey. And Ohio State applying a little bit of defensive intensity. Don Carey with his first foul and Maryland's fourth.
It's a good foul, actually, because it's been multiple bad possessions where guys just aren't focused. This is where you rely on your experience and your leaders, and this is where you want to hear more from Jameer Young and Dante Scott.
They get Reese on the bench after the technical, which was his third foul. Good look, Suing. Three-pointer goes, and it's a 7-point game.
Good action near paint touch. Go behind, throw behind, and you get an open three. It's action we haven't seen much of from Ohio State, but that's going to be there.
Just a 27% three-point shooter, Justice Suing. Buckeyes' first three of the half. Emilian and Martinez on the floor off the bench for Maryland. Here's Emilian, poked away by Brown. Carey has to retrieve it, bring it up the floor with 5 to shoot for Young. Jameer Young around Suing, got it on the rim, rebound, Holden, and he is fouled. This game has turned in a blink after that technical foul against Reese.
It's turned with guys like Sensabaugh on the bench. They've started to found good action leads to better shot opportunities. Now, that being said, Maryland's also turned the ball over, and some of them have been some pick-six turnovers, so that's something that has to be cleaned up. Can't hand the game away here in the second.
Young takes a break. Sensabaugh comes back into the game, but Gale and Brown have really brought energy off the bench. Ohio State playing without Zed Key. He's got a 12-point lead. Actually cut a 14-point lead down to 7. Sensabaugh shooting into the paint. Offensive foul.
I think it's the right call. He turned his shoulder, actually changed his trajectory. Instead of going to the basket, went into the defender. Made the right call. Tough one to get, though.
Entire second half, and Bryce Sensabaugh has had a tough second half. 4 turnovers for Ohio State, including his foul.
Yeah, look, this was a great move by Sensabaugh, and he is used to playing for contact. He's used to getting contact because of his physicality. He sought out the contact, didn't get it, created it himself, and got the call against him. That was actually a great play by Dante Scott, who's just played enough basketball to know how to coach officials into making that call. Which is not saying that he manipulated the officials. He made a good play by quasi-pulling the chair on Sensabaugh.
Ohio State's turned it over 11 times, 7 in the second half. Maryland team just 2-5 at its last 7, 5 consecutive losses against power conference teams.
And a lot of turning the basketball over in the half court is not being confident with action that can move the basketball and move the game. They haven't been able to move the game, but they've been able to make shots when they've needed them.
Hart knocked away from Hakeem Hart with 17 to shoot.
It's key to get Zed Key back. I hate that I did that. To get Zed Key back is very important. Obviously, that's a big piece of this team, but the more this team plays together, the more you're going to realize how good Ohio State can be, especially the physicality of some of these young guards.
Reese fouled by Eugene Brown. That's the 3rd on Brown, 5th against Ohio State.
Still like to see Reese be just more, I don't know. You can get a catch in a better position than 15 feet away from the basket if you're being covered by a guy 5'6" inches shorter.
There's Sensabaugh to take it. It's a goaltend against Scott, who took it off the backboard. And now a 9-0 Buckeye run cuts the lead to 5.
You get what I'm saying, right? You need to be deliberate about where you want to catch the basketball. And if you're Julian Reese being covered by a 3, maybe call him a 2, 3, 4, you should be able to get the ball on the block where you can make a quick and deliberate move at the rim.
Maryland certainly has the height advantage right now, especially without Key and with Okpara out of the game. That's a foul against Likely, the 6th on Ohio State and the 3rd on Likely. So Maryland will shoot free throws rest of the game. Reese found Young, got space, didn't take it. Young fouled, and Young will shoot 2. Roddy Gale picks up his 2nd.
Young's been really good in ball screen situations that doesn't lead to a switch. He's drug it out a little bit. He's frozen the defense, and then once you get that angle and you get that open space to attack, he's attacked it. He does a good job of waiting for the contact, creating it a bit, but not by an offensive foul. It's good experience. You can see when players are experienced, where they've just played a lot of ball at a high level. I'm not talking about I played 4 AAU games in a day. I'm talking college basketball for years. It'll teach you how to play the game.
Young is 9 for 11 at the line. His only 2 misses were in a set of free throws he followed by getting an offensive rebound and drawing a foul to go back to the line. So he has not had a trip to the line that's hurt them. And he's now 10 for 12 for a game-high 23. 1 shy of a Maryland high. At 24 in the win over Illinois, the Terps' only Big Ten win at the moment.
You mentioned you wasn't sure how he would translate up. Well, frankly, how do guys translate when they move down? Like, whoever really knows. It's about fit.
Holden has to get it to Sensabaugh. 6 to shoot. The freshman Sensabaugh makes a play. He has 18 and he's starting to find his stroke. Down to a 5-point lead again.
Well, if he can get to that mid-range, it's going to be a challenge down the stretch for Maryland. That's just an area that is just not covered as much, right? Defend the 3, close out hard, take away anything, paint touches and stuff at the rim. But if you have a guy who can pull up in the mid-range, that's tough cover.
Hart squirrels around. Sensabaugh missed it. Here is the freshman Bryce Sensabaugh out of Orlando, Florida. Pull up 2, and he draws a foul. He can make this a 3-point game at the line.
Haven't been many opportunities in transition, but when you push it and everybody's occupying a man, a one-on-one situation with Bryce Sensabaugh, that's the type of advantage I would play to as much as possible. Now, if you can do it quickly and he gets to that mid-range, it's going to force a little help. Not an over-help, but just a little help, and then you can read and play off of that.
Seemed like he was really struggling for a while. All of a sudden, you look up and Sensabaugh has 19. He leads the Buckeyes in scoring at 16.3 points per game. These are the true freshman single-season scoring leaders for Ohio State. That is Columbus royalty.
No way Jimmy was a freshman in that picture.
He was a freshman at some point.
He looks like he did last year in that picture. Actually, frankly, he still looks like that.
Forever young, our friend Jim Jackson. Sensabaugh's got 20. The lead is down to 3. Hart baseline drive. That's a late whistle against Doug Sermons, but it is going to be a foul.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna check birth certificates. What's the kid that was like 15 playing in the Little League World Series?
Danny Almonte.
We got Danny Almonte on the right. Settle down there, Almonte. Goodness gracious. Michael Redd, I had to play against him. He was, I guess, a junior my freshman year. Scooty Penn, Michael Redd, Ken Johnson, they were really good. Actually beat them in the Big Ten tournament. They were 3rd in the country. God, I barely remember that.
I'm sure you don't know any more details from that game.
No, not that game, no.
Foul was against Brown, his 4th.
If I had 30, I'd be able to tell you all about it.
It's true. Well, you were the best shot maker to ever come out of South Jersey or whatever Gary Williams said.
I didn't argue.
2 for 2 for Hart. It's a 2-possession game with under 6 to go. Likely would carry all over him. Harry tried to draw the offensive foul. Nobody bit. Here's Sensabaugh trying to take over the game for Ohio State. That's a tough shot. Rebound by Scott, and then a foul as Sensabaugh stuck his nose in there. He picks up his 2nd to send Scott to the line.
The next 2 possessions are going to be really interesting because if you go right back to Bryce Sensabaugh, you're accepting that it's ride or die time, right? He's either going to win us this game or we're going to lose. I think you've got to get something quickly where there's action, there's movement, there's an opportunity. If 2 come with the basketball or over help, you can kick out. Get the ball moving a little bit. Don't just settle too quickly, although I do like playing through Sensabaugh.
1-and-1 for Scott. Missed it. 71% free throw shooter, left 2 out there.
Yeah, McNeil's going to space the floor, and he needs to do so. He just needs the space, and wherever you can create an advantage here. I actually like what they're doing with Justice Suing out top.
Off a couple of picks. Endery still has it. Finds a cutting Sensabaugh. Tough catch. And would have been a very tough finish. And Sensabaugh was fouled going for the offensive rebound. That's 7 against Maryland and a 1-and-1 for Sensabaugh.
The interesting thing with Suing handled the basketball, how are you going to defend that? It's going to kind of break down what you have been doing around the perimeter, which is switch everything, especially the last on ball screen. Julian Reese stayed with Justice Suing, which is kind of interesting when you watch everybody else try to stay or find a man.
Well, without Okpara, who has been limited by foul trouble, and frankly, Chris Holtman has just thought is not the right matchup for this half. And without Key, Suing at 6'6", the biggest guy on the floor. So when he's facilitating the play, it's interesting for the Terps to figure out.
Well, the idea is if you can get a switch, you're going to have Julian Reese on a guard, and maybe you can attack that matchup. But Reese was able to just go underneath on all of those, and Suing's able to get baseline, and it was ultimately a back cut that led to an opportunity.
22 ties a career high for Sensabaugh. The lead is 3 for the Terrapins. 5 minutes to play in the Xfinity Center in College Park. Young trying to cross McNeil. Got the bucket. Chance for 3. Oh, he had McNeil dead to rights.
You can see it as he was setting up that ball screen. It was like the Red Sea parting, right? You stay wide on the near side baseline side, so Ice likely can't take that away, deny the ball screen, and just tack that open space. We don't talk enough about that. You always say, like, attack the rim, get to the paint. Just attack open space and watch the defense move. And if the defense doesn't move, you're going to have a layup.
Young with the new season high 26. He is just 4 shy of a career high. That came last year with Charlotte.
But I wonder how he'll translate. Translate up.
Wonder no more.
Says Kevin Brown.
No, I didn't say that.
You said that you didn't think he'd translate.
I did not say that I didn't think that. Stop it. It's just rude. Here's Suing into Carey. Suing trying to create space. He'll go to the offhand, and Suing's got 18 as Chris Holtman takes his 3rd timeout. We will take it with them. 4-point game. Good finish coming in College Park. Loss earlier in the week.
But Kelvin would say he's just renting it.
He's just renting it. Now Purdue came back and beat Ohio State on the road. The Buckeyes been in some close games this season. Losing to Purdue by 2, lost in overtime to North Carolina, beat Rutgers. A very controversial ending in the Big Ten opener to Tanner Holden 3 after he stepped out of bounds. Not a lot of close games of late for Maryland. They've been run out of the gym a couple of times by UCLA, Michigan, and Rutgers. Good response by Young, who has 26. Sensabaugh with 22. That ties a career high. Who will make the plays down the stretch?
I kind of like this timeout from Chris Holtman. Counts as the under 4, which means you have more opportunity to create a little rhythm and flow to the end of this game, which should help you maximize possessions down the stretch. It also got them into a little bit of a token extended pressure. Let's see how they can create a little rhythm here late. They've been able to find it through Sensabaugh and some of the playmaking with Justice Suing having the ball in his hands. But Parr's back in the game.
Well, man, he hasn't been on the floor in a long time. Hart drives it. Hakeem Hart to the left, and a foul before the shot. Maryland's in a double bonus anyway, so it will be a 2-shot foul as Bryce Sensabaugh picks up his 3rd.
I would attack young guards late in the game until they foul out. Young guards, particularly in the Big Ten, when it starts to wear on you in a late game situation, you can't help but to put your hands down on a ball handler. And if it's done in space, they'll call it.
Hart, very good free throw shooter. 4 for 4 at the line today. Scoring's gone way down of late for Hakeem Hart. He has 10 today, 6 rebounds, couple of steals. Got a big two-way game today, and it gives Maryland a 6-point lead.
I like that Maryland's continuing to stay with pressure on the ball, just not taking the risk of bringing 2 on the basketball at this point. Keep the pace up.
The last 15 Ohio State points have come from either Sewing or Sensabaugh, and Sewing looks confused right now.
Oh, he's going against the zone. They weren't prepared for the zone. Took him about 12 seconds to figure it out.
Down to 6 to shoot for Likely. Likely, tip pass, Gale. Oh, a desperation heave at the end of the shot clock. Ronnie Gale with his first three-pointer in the last 7 games.
So you're saying it wasn't good offense? We got confused for about 25 seconds and you just take a deep 3? Yeah. That's the way this game goes.
Whatever works. And then Gale nearly took it away, goes sliding on the floor. Maryland has numbers. Nobody has Reese. Likely around the screen from Okpara. Under 3 to play for Ohio State, which has trailed most of the second half. Gale hit the 3 on the last possession. Gale got Scott in the air, leans in and scores. After 15 in a row from Sewing and Sensabaugh, it is 4-point per game scorer Ronnie Gale taking over.
For now, I think that's a guy who's going to give you more and more production as the season goes on, as his career goes on. Again, smooth fluidity. He's going to be able to find it at this level.
Young pulls up for a deep one. And that ball is kept alive by Hart. Looked like Sensabaugh maybe wanted to just shepherd it out of bounds. Hart. Another foul against Sensabaugh. He has taken control in that matchup. That's 4 on Bryce Sensabaugh.
But I go back to how are guys when they're fatigued? Well, they stand up, they're not on balance, and they tend to use their hands defensively. But Gale's just been tough. I think he's got a smooth fluidity, right? He's a playmaker who just needs to understand where his opportunities are going to come. This is good stuff. Little pump fake up and under, good finish. And it's not that we're just showing his plays that he's made shots. I think he's had missed shot opportunities that were great plays too.
Good defensive game today. It's Hart for 2 more. He is perfect at the line. 6 for 6.
Going back to that point we were talking about where it's like Maryland coming off of a tough loss really needs this game. Well, Ohio State coming off of, that's going to be the Big Ten all season. Every game feels like a must-win game.
First miss for Hart. Maryland is 21 for 27 at the line. Ohio State 16 of 19. 2 minutes to play at College Park. It's Okpara getting some late run after most of this half on a bench, and he nearly turned it over. That was deflected. There's Gale into Reese. Gale almost lost his footing and threw it away.
Say it's good defense by Maryland, and it's not just because it's good team defense. You have the guards fighting hard to get over screens, which means you're not switching as much. That is disruptive itself because you've been switching a lot throughout the course of the game. Then you start fighting over screen. That's disruptive.
Sensabaugh's off the floor. Thornton is back in. 90 seconds to go. Maryland takes a timeout. They have 1 to go. This is a 30-second timeout. We'll take it with them. Come back for the final 89. Kev, thank you for playing a little traffic cop for us there. We'll see if this game goes long. It may very well. 89 seconds to go. Both teams in the bonus. Maryland in the double bonus and a timeout apiece. Terrapins trailed by 5 at the half. Quickly took the lead and have not looked back to date in the second. Under first-year head coach Kevin Willard, a surprising start for Maryland. Looking for Big Ten win number 2. 8 to shoot for Jameer Young with a game-high 26 in his pocket. And Young with one heck of a high finish over on Parra.
Just a good sit down, show the basketball, get the defense, just lift it a little bit, just enough to get the shot off. What a finish.
And Ohio State does not have Sensabaugh in the game. They took him out for defense. They only have one timeout. They don't call it to get him back in. Crazy passes, just barely tracked down by Sewing.
Yeah,
and now Chris Holtman uses that final timeout.
He's going to get McNeil and Sensabaugh back in the game. You've got to play a little offense, defense, but down the stretch here, you need your best players on the floor. And this is just big-time stuff from Young. If you know how to play basketball, you know how to play basketball. You got the switch you wanted. You're covered by a big. You get into the paint, little pump fake show. Just enough to lift the defense, get him off balance, and he can't time his second jump. That's big-time stuff. Just the fact that you're able to play to this switch, that's the biggest key. So many times you get the switch, and then you space out. And when you space out, that time you take to attack, it allows the rest of the defense to set against you. Where he went right at it, and that's the way you attack.
It's too shy of a career high for Jameer Young in his 101st career game. Had a very good first half, bunch of offensive rebounds, even better in the second. He's 1 rebound shy of a career high 2.
I really think it's been about the defense. Yeah, the shot making for sure. They got 75 points on the board against a very good defensive team in Ohio State. Also a team at Ohio State that switches a lot around the perimeter as well, which is tough to figure out, especially if you're young. I'm saying young guys, not just Young himself. But defensively, Maryland has been terrific. They've switched it up. They played full court with their pressure. They've applied 2 on the ball in the backcourt, which I think is risky, but it's worked well for them. Ohio State wasn't able to attack it, so they continue to put it on them. Now they stay with 1 on the ball, full court, but stay back into safe. They've been good in zone. They've been good in man.
McNeil's on the floor, along with Sensabaugh. 6-point game. Good find, Sewing, and he missed it. Would have made it a 1-possession game. Carey is fouled by Sensabaugh. That's his 5th. And Maryland can salt this game away with free throws and smart ball handling down the stretch.
Yeah, the Terps dodged one there. That was one of the best looks we've seen from Ohio State all second half. Just a little ball movement, got an open look, just couldn't get it to go.
Sensabaugh's trying to stay in the game. He has picked up 5 fouls. Doug Sermons is informing him as such. Bryce is just trying to hang out right now on the other side of the free throw line. And now he's got to take a seat.
Yeah, he's going to have to learn how to play defense, play angles, right? You know, cheat the play a little bit, because if you're going to get tired, this is a guy you need to play 30-plus minutes. If you're going to get tired and it's going to lead to fouls, you can't play. And the last thing you want to do as a coach is have to go offense, defense with one of your best players. It doesn't mean don't apply effort. It's that you need to play enough to learn how to take breaks on defense. Nobody wants to admit that we take breaks on defense, but we do. Play angles, anticipate, move with the basketball, don't get screened as much. There's a lot of little things you can learn if you play more. Because, man, he's good.
Tied a career high 22 points.
For now.
And that'll change maybe the next game. Does foul out, did commit 4 turnovers, so it's a Big Ten road test learning experience for Sensabaugh, no doubt. And for this young Ohio State team in total, which is relying on a lot of freshmen. 2 free throws for Carey, an 8-point game. Here's one of those freshmen, Thornton. Makes it a 6-point game, no timeouts left for the Buckeyes. Carey, an excellent free throw shooter, gets it to Young, who's also an excellent free throw shooter. And Young gets it out of the trap. Got a foul here at some point. A lot of time went off the shot clock, and it'll be Scott to shoot.
I get applying the pressure in the backcourt, but the foul has to come immediately once that ball gets into the front court.
3rd foul on McNeil.
If you take the opportunity to get the steal, and it may take 10 seconds, I don't care who gets the ball, it's got to be an immediate foul. At least in the front court.
Dante Scott's got 10 All 5 Maryland starters are in double figures.
Come on, he had the foul trouble in the first half too, so it took him a while to find a rhythm in this game.
He was great in the games against Ohio State last year. 39 points in the 2 games, including a career-high 25. And he has an important dozen today. Season-high 25 free throw makes for Maryland. 81% from the line this afternoon. Suing puts up a 3. It is good. Ohio State does not have a timeout.
I think they're going to take a look at this, whether it was a 2 or 3.
Yeah, so this will count as a de facto timeout for Ohio State. It is ruled a 3 on the floor.
Yeah, they're saying it's 3, and they're probably going to bring him back.
It's a very quick review.
Yeah, definitely a 3.
Heck of a shot. It's a little Marcus Page, Carolina Villanova end of the game, lead-in 3 right there.
That was one heck of a game. Look at this point, Ohio State. You've got to double as quickly as possible. You've got to foul if you don't get the immediate steal. There's no question at this point. You just have to extend this game as much as possible. I just think there's been enough ball handlers on the floor for Maryland to maintain control. That's been the challenge.
Hakeem Hart, well, he can run the baseline. He does, and he gets it to Young. Spins away from Thornton. Ball's not taking way too much time. Finally fouled in 4 seconds or so, came off the clock. Third foul against Suing. Well, sometimes you don't need depth. And with 6 points from its 3 reserves, all 5 starters in double figures for Kevin Willard's bunch. Kevin did say after the Rutgers loss, I'm not worried. We're going to get it going offensively. And they got it going today. Got it going in a big way at the line where they are 26 for 32.
Well, and part of that is being able to put it on the deck, right? If you can put it on the floor and get to the rim, you get fouled. It's just as easy as that. They have a lot of guys who can space the floor. They have a lot of guys who can handle it. And you're right. Like, who cares who scores? It's about being impactful. And I think the guys that come off the bench just have to impact the game in a positive way. Great performance by Maryland and a good response to some adversity in this conference.
Terrapins snap a 5-game losing streak against power conference opponents, and their offense breaks out in a big way. 30 points to tie a career high for Jamiri.